I was very upset. This played out in different ways for me. As I mean, I definitely had depressions about it, bouts. I've had self-esteem issues. I had confidence issues.
Spinderella truly got the short end of the stick in the music industry. After dedicating over 30 years of her life, talent, and skills to Salt-N-Pepa, she was reduced to being dismissed by the very group she helped build. And it was Peppa, of all people, who downplayed her importance.
Out of Salt-N-Pepa money, 1.6 million. When we got our deal, we not contractually obligated at all. Salt-N-Pepa took our money and gave her 1.6 million and didn't have to. And that's the God's honest truth.
The whole situation with Spinderella being excluded from Salt-N-Pepa doesn't sit right with many people, especially considering her pivotal role in their rise to fame. Spinderella was brought into the group in 1986 by producer Herbie Azor, just before the Westchester Music Festival. At the time, the group's original DJ, LaToya Hanson, had missed several rehearsals and appearances, so they were on the hunt for a replacement. Spinderella, then just 16, was chosen to step in, and her parents had to give permission for her to travel with the group as they toured the country. From there, Salt-N-Pepa became one of the most iconic female hip-hop groups of all time. While the group's name is Salt-N-Pepa, Spinderella was a crucial part of their success. She was there for over 30 years, contributing to multiple albums, producing songs, and even appearing on album covers. She was part of reunion tours and Vegas residencies, essentially a staple of their career for decades. But somewhere along the way, Salt-N-Pepa made the decision to cut Spinderella out. The way they went about it was harsh and unfair, especially considering how integral she had been to their success. Salt-N-Pepa have previously suggested that Spinderella wasn't a real member of the group because she didn't contribute as much. There's even been talk that sometimes only Salt-N-Pepa are requested for shows, implying that Spinderella's contributions weren't valued. This dismissal feels completely unjust, considering how much Spinderella gave to the group from such a young age.
You know, it's a lot of times they ask, for Salt-N-Pepa to talk or be here, and they don't have Spinderella. It's out of our hands, and she always blames us, think that's, to fight. We do fight, but sometimes they no, we just want, the Salt-N-Pepa. And it's hard, and that was a lot of that constant, and she wants to say, no, don't do this. Instead, right. I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm getting on the rail.
She's like, this is the...
The question of why Spinderella was included on album covers and awarded with Salt-N-Pepa if she wasn't considered an important member is one that many fans have pondered. The truth, many believe, is that there was more to it than just business. A lot of fans and insiders feel that the tension between Spinderella and the group was deeply personal, and the real issue was rooted in long-standing conflict within the group. For decades, Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella seemed to have underlying issues that only became fully clear around 2018. In 2018, New Kids on the Block announced the mixtape tour, celebrating 3 decades in the music industry, and Salt-N-Pepa were slated to be a part of it. The debut show went off as planned, and the night was a massive success. However, Spinderella was noticeably absent from the performance, despite being advertised as part of the lineup. This was the beginning of the unraveling. As the tour approached, Spinderella shared on social media that she had been cut from the group after receiving a termination email several months earlier. She expressed her sadness in the post, explaining how she had been publicly included in the tour but was excluded from the performances without any prior official announcement from Salt-N-Pepa. She felt betrayed by the lack of transparency and communication and decided to take the initiative to inform fans about her departure rather than letting them be misled. Spinderella wrote in her post that she had expected Salt-N-Pepa to take responsibility for publicly sharing the news of her departure. However, months passed with no mention of the situation from the group. She clarified that, out of respect for her fans and her professional integrity, she would not be part of the mixtape tour. She made it clear that fans would be able to see her in other projects that summer. But this marked a turning point in her relationship with Salt-N-Pepa. 2 months later, Spinderella filed a lawsuit against Salt-N-Pepa, citing multiple issues, including unpaid royalties, breaches of contract, fraud, and intentional misrepresentation. In her lawsuit, she highlighted her crucial role in the group's success since the 1980s, claiming she had helped elevate them to iconic status. Despite this, over the years, Spinderella felt increasingly sidelined, with significant decisions being made without her knowledge or involvement. She recalled that when the group went on hiatus in the late 1990s, she continued to promote the band, keeping their presence alive while the rest of the group was on break. One of the turning points in the lawsuit came when Spinderella discovered she had been excluded from deals that she believed she had a rightful claim to. In the early 2000s, a compilation album was released, and Spinderella was told by Peppa that she would receive $125,000 for her contributions. However, that payment never came through. Around the same time, Salt-N-Pepa discussed a potential reunion, which could involve a television show about the group's rise to fame. Spinderella was promised a one-third share of the profits from this project, but when the VH1 show, the Salt-N-Pepa show, was produced, she was invited to appear only as a guest, with minimal compensation. The show largely featured only Salt-N-Pepa, and Spinderella felt this further marginalized her role within the group. Through her lawsuit, Spinderella painted a picture of how, over the years, she was increasingly cut out of important decisions, excluded from projects, and misled about financial matters. Despite her significant contributions to the group's success, Salt-N-Pepa appeared to gradually diminish her role. What had once been a successful and celebrated trio was now, for Spinderella, a painful reminder of her efforts being overlooked and unappreciated. The legal action she took was her attempt to seek justice for years of what she saw as exploitation and mistreatment.
The checks, if you saw the show, they made it clear who is the boss. So who makes decisions? It's the two of them. And honestly, you guys, all you got to do is just look. You can see it. It's really not that deep.
Despite the ongoing tension, Spinderella continued working with Salt-N-Pepa for years, participating in tours and events. She consistently asked about her pay, but was reassured that she was receiving her fair share. In 2018, she agreed to a Las Vegas residency with the group, but payments were often late or irregular. Eventually, she refused to accept low pay for her work. In January 2019, she received a termination notice from the group's lawyers. Spinderella claimed that Salt-N-Pepa failed to provide a proper accounting of her royalties, income, and earnings, including from merchandise and album sales. She demanded damages, an accurate accounting, and an injunction preventing them from using her name or likeness. While the lawsuit was settled privately, the situation took another disappointing turn when Salt-N-Pepa released their biopic, once again excluding Spinderella. She expressed her frustration with how she had been treated throughout the ordeal.
I have every right to not support it because of the fact that it didn't support me. And people should know that that was a dream of all of ours. And that was discussed. We discussed a movie of our life back in the 90s. Our dreams were coming true. But it seemed like when those things would come true or come to fruition, I would be left out of it.
Spinderella took to Twitter to speak out about her exclusion from the Lifetime biopic, expressing her frustration and disappointment. She wrote, "Sorry, but I got to speak on this Lifetime special. Too often, Black women who've made meaningful contributions in their industries are left out of historical narratives. Back when Salt-N-Pepa was building our legacy, which was rooted in empowering women, I could not have dreamed that this same group would one day disempower me." She continued, saying words couldn't fully express her disappointment when she learned that the biopic was moving forward without her, despite her integral role in the group's story and success. She pointed out that her image was used throughout the project, but she was excluded from every aspect of its development and production. Spinderella also expressed how hurtful it was to be silenced by another woman. She wrote, "There's nothing more unacceptable than a woman being silenced by another woman," and made it clear that she would not be supporting the biopic. However, She did extend her congratulations to the talented actresses who portrayed the group, including Monique Paul, and wished she'd been given the opportunity to share her true perspective. Spinderella ended the post by reflecting on her own legacy, stating that despite the struggles, she had managed to uphold a 30-year career of empowering women with her talent. She also revealed that she was in the final stages of writing her memoir, which would delve into her personal journey through life, relationships, and the industry that shaped her. Fans strongly sympathized with Spinderella and agreed that Salt-N-Pepa had done her dirty. While she was primarily the DJ, she was also deeply involved in the group's success, appearing in videos, interviews, performing on songs, and attending award shows. For many, it was clear that Salt-N-Pepa had pushed her out, and the way she was treated didn't sit well with the public. In response to Spinderella's accusations, Salt-N-Pepa's reaction to her feelings of exclusion was, to say the least, disappointing. They did not offer much in the way of reconciliation, which only further fueled the disappointment among fans who felt that Spinderella deserved far better after all her years of dedication.
Yeah, I reached out to Spinderella. I feel like it's very unfortunate. You know, we've come to a crossroads where we have decided to agree to disagree. I definitely am open, and Pep is open. We've talked about it. Our hearts are open, have always been open to Spinderella. As far as the public is concerned, I'm really happy about the people who know that they don't know everything. There's 6 sides to every story. And we just hope that, you know, that we can come to some sort of resolution in the future. You never know, you know.
Peppa defended Salt-N-Pepa's actions, claiming they reached out to Spinderella during the production of the biopic, and explained that the film focused on their college friendship, not Spin's involvement. However, this claim was misleading, as the biopic heavily featured their career, and Spinderella was a key part of that success. Her exclusion was deliberate. In interviews, Spinderella spoke about how emotionally taxing the way she was treated by her sisters had been. She emphasized that any future reconciliation would require them to address the business issues and offer a genuine apology. When asked if she would consider working with Salt-N-Pepa again, Spinderella said she would only consider it if they resolved their internal issues, as she didn't want to abandon their legacy.
I don't want to abandon our legacy. I just mentally have to do what needs to be done for myself. And there has to be a mutual respect. And that's it.
Unfortunately, many feel that Salt-N-Pepa still don't recognize Spinderella's importance, and they continue to treat her as if she doesn't matter. The real cause of the rift remains unclear. Was it jealousy, something involving one of their men, or just contract issues? We may never know the full story, but the way Spinderella was treated has left a lot of people questioning. What are your thoughts on how Salt-N-Pepa treated her? Do you think there's more to the story than they've shared? Let me know in the comments below.